Conservative leader Erin O'Toole is calling for the relocation of the 2022 Olympics in Beijing. He says Canada should not be sending its athletes to compete in a country that stands accused of committing genocide against the Uighurs. This morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there's no question that human rights abuses have occurred, but that genocide is a, quote, extremely loaded term that should be applied only in accordance with internationally recognized criteria. Rob Oliphant is the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He's straightening out his computer, so he'll be with us in a second. And Michael Chong is the Conservatives' foreign affairs critic. They both join me now. Hi there. Thank you very much for making the time. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Oliphant? Do you have me? I can't hear you. Oh, wait, now I hear him. Okay. Well, the joys of Skype during a pandemic. I appreciate both of you making the time. Mr. Oliphant, I do want to start with you. The Prime Minister this morning said making the determination that what has happened to the Uyghurs in China constitutes genocide will be based on facts and evidence as appropriate. The U.S., both incoming and outgoing Secretary of States, your own envoy to the UN, and Parliament Subcommittee on Human Rights all said the evidence and the facts do purport to constitute genocide. What evidence do you still need?
I think what we need to recognize is that when you make such a serious determination of genocide, and absolutely, let me say that the human rights abuses and atrocities in China are real. We are not questioning them. However, the determination of genocide is something that we take very seriously. If we don't take it very seriously, it cheapens every determination of genocide that has ever been made. So we'll do that carefully. We'll do it in conjunction, obviously, with allies. We want to make sure that we're in step with others. We think the determination of genocide is a set of legal proceedings. It should be done by those who are qualified to determine it, and it should be done based on evidence. And so that's why we've talked to the General Secretary of the UN Human Rights Commission. We want her engaged, Michelle Bachelet. We want to have those kinds of processes taking place. And it is very clear that things that are going on are upsetting Canadians, they're upsetting me, they're upsetting parliamentarians and our government. However, we will take that slowly, one step at a time, to make sure that we do a determination that is fair and good and just.
Just quickly before I move on to your colleague, Mr. Chong, how do you expect realistically to get any of that evidence through the processes that you named? Do you think that China all of a sudden is going to say, okay, come in, take a look, UN investigators, at what we are doing to the Uyghurs? They deny the very idea that they're doing anything wrong.
You're absolutely right. And this is a very tricky situation. It's unlike, say, after Rwanda or after the Holocaust or after the Armenian genocide, where you've got that period of time. And we want to act quickly, but we also want to do it carefully. We'll have expert advice. We have had some expert advice has come to the Subcommittee on International Human Rights. That's important evidence that's now being considered. We want the UN to be engaged, and we want our partners from around the world to be engaged. And there are some really key partners out there that we think should be involved in this, and Canada will move on this carefully and steadily, but surely.
Just a quick point on the evidence you referred to that was before that subcommittee. The subcommittee did determine that it constitutes genocide. Mr. Chong, I want to move on to your party's suggestion today that the government pushed to move locations as a result of that determination around genocide for the 2022 Olympics. I want to read you a quote. I think that experience would suggest that such boycotts are generally not effective and really in the end only harm the athletes involved who have trained for so many years to compete in these events. That's what then Prime Minister Stephen Harper said when he faced calls for Canada to boycott the 2008 Olympics in China. What's different now?
Well, I don't think it's just about taking a position to affect, I don't think it's just about the effects of a boycott or a relocation. It's about taking a stand on this issue. Just like Canada took a stand on apartheid in the 1980s. We took a position that it was unacceptable ethically and morally to support apartheid. In the same way, I don't see how we can ignore a genocide that is taking place in China and pretend as if nothing is going on and go to an Olympics where we wave the flag. I don't think that's possible. I think we have to take a position on this, and I think the government of Canada needs to first recognize that a genocide is going on, and secondly, it needs to go to the International Olympic Committee and make a formal request that the location of the Games be moved from China.
But there was pressure, Mr. Chong, in 2008 from the same human rights advocates that are now calling for the games to be moved because of what's happening, for the Canadian government to take some action. And then Prime Minister Harper resisted it, using some similar arguments that we've heard from the federal government now about the ineffectiveness of making a decision like that. Again, I ask you, what's
the China of 2008, I would say, in response to that, is not the China of 2021.
But it certainly didn't have a clear human rights record then either.
Well, it didn't, but it wasn't persecuting and committing genocide of the Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims as they've been doing since 2015. It's clear that beginning in and around 2015, there was a concerted effort on part of the Chinese government to systematically reduce births amongst Uyghurs, to use sexual violence as a tool to suppress the population, and to build mass detention camps where upwards of 1 million people are currently being held. That's all taken place in the last 5 years. That's what's different. And we pledged some 75 years ago, never again, to stand by idly while a genocide took place. And here we are, 75 years again later, with a genocide taking place. We as a country need to take a position on this, and we need to take action by requesting the International Olympic Committee move the venues from China.
I just have a few seconds, Mr. Oliphant, but what Mr. Chong laid out there about what has happened to the Uyghurs is exactly what the subcommittee on human rights at Parliament also laid out. Your government is not saying that it's going to push to move the games, but will you commit to not sending any representatives to them?
We are absolutely in engagement always on these issues. The International Olympic Committee, the Canadian Olympic Committee, the Canadian Paralympic Committee are considering these issues strongly. That's where the decision rests.
No,
Canada
the decision about whether to send a government representative is yours.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to be evaluating this every step of the way. But I think as Michael Chong said last week, we do this in concert with our allies. This is extremely important. We're a small country. To be effective. And this is not a new issue. The Uighur issue didn't start in 2015. I've been engaged with it since 2008, 9, and 10 with Rabia Kadir, who came to Canada to talk about the Uighur issues. This is not new. This is absolutely getting worse and worse. Canada needs to take a stand on human rights with Tibet, with Hong Kong, with the Uyghurs, absolutely strongly standing for human rights, but we'll also strongly stand with athletes, with the Olympic committees around the world and in Canada to make sure they have the best decision, the best evidence to make the best decision. We're doing this cautiously and carefully and well.
Okay, I'm unfortunately out of time. I apologize. I have lots more that I could ask both of you. Hopefully we'll be able to reconvene. I appreciate you both making the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Chong and Rob Oliphant. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.